Okay, so let's get this going. This is the June 4th, 2025 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. And we have with us today Michael Madden, Andy Phillip, and myself, Bruce Gingrich, as the zoning board members. And we have Mark Connor from the town planner, sitting in on this too. Tonight we have the one project to consider, and then a meeting minutes wrap up, and that's it. So the project is for the property located at 186 Echo Cove Road, Assessor's Map 60, Lot 21, owned by Mary Monahan. The applicant, Dan Kowalski, is seeking a dimensional variance under Section 4.0 dimensional and density regulations of the Hamilton zoning bylaw in order to construct a new single-family residence that partially encroaches into the side setback minimum side yard area. This is a continuation of that meeting from last month. So there's been some changes, so we're anxious to hear from Dan. We'll listen to Dan Kowalski first, and then we'll have questions and comments, and then the public can have their input and move on from there. So, Mr. Kowalski,
Kowalski.
Kowalski. Okay,
Kowalski, kind of like the wrestler, the old-time wrestler.
Okay.
But thank you very much. Let me, if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
Created a PowerPoint, which I think would be helpful. Give me one sec. And so everybody should be seeing my screen, correct?
Yes, I see it. Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, so I'm here today with my wife, Kristen. As mentioned previously, Mary Monahan is actually my mother-in-law. And we were here on May 7th, in which I requested a variance to associated with raising the existing structure at 186 Echo Cove Road. Since that meeting, I've had the opportunity to do some additional research and additional planning, and now I'd like to convert that variance request, so to speak, into a lower level special permit request. So that's the point of this meeting. I did provide an updated application to Mark a little while back, along with the updated plans, etc. What we were previously asking for was a variance that would have put our house 5 feet from the 20-foot way that is between 174 and 186 Echo Cove Road. And obviously, we're changing that request from a variance to a special permit by relocating our house to a minimum of 15 feet from the side setback. So that's one of the things that we're going to do, and we'll take a look at the plan momentarily. We'll be correcting an existing side setback nonconformity. The existing structure is 13.5 feet from the side lot line on the right-hand side of the existing structure, but we're going to increase that to over 15. And you'll see also in the lot that we'll the pie-shaped lot, as I was highlighting previously, kind of limits our design of the building footprint, but we have redesigned the structure and the building to fit within the setbacks. So what went into our initial design requirements is, we needed to design a home for our multi-generational needs. For the last 10 plus years, my mother-in-law, Mary Monahan, has lived with us in an ADU in Andover. So one of the requirements in our new design is we obviously want to give my mother-in-law some privacy. We will be sharing a kitchen with her. She'll obviously have her own bathroom, laundry area, and a small living room for her. Other requirements, obviously a bedroom for myself and my wife, that's plus, and one bedroom for one of our two daughters. Now, both my wife and I work from home, so we are requiring in our design requirements two offices. I get the smaller office. My wife gets the little bit of a larger office, a workshop. And one of the things that I really want to do with this home is I want to make it energy efficient. I have been investigating geothermal heat and am planning on considering solar as well. So obviously, we want to make this house energy efficient as it is our last house, hopefully. So there was a lot of discussion last week about, or last month, about Echo Cove Road and what makes up a public way. And I just did a little bit of research, and what we have here is Echo Cove Road was accepted as a public way in 1983 at the annual town meeting. It was Article 14 in the meeting, which is reflected right here, and I'm happy to provide this PowerPoint mark to you after the meeting. But what you're looking at here on the right-hand side is an excerpt from the town's layout of Echo Cove Road, and this is from 1974. This came out of the Hamilton Vault, where it's stored as it's an official public record. And basically, at town meeting voted to accept Echo Cove Road as a plan, as laid out on the plan on file with the town clerk, and this is a portion of that plan. As you see, Echo Cove Road is very, very well defined here with dimensions, degrees, etc. There's easements for roadways, etc. And here's that 20-foot way, which is next to my house between 186 right here and 174 right here. You'll notice that there are no dimensions on this 20-foot way. It's simply reflected as a 20-foot way. I did confirm with Mark, and Mark, please correct me if I'm wrong, that the 20-foot way portion of Echo Cove Road is not part of the public way. It is considered a private way, which, ownership aside, I'm simply stating it's not part of the public way that is Echo Cove Road. So let me just move on to the next few slides and humor me here. For those that haven't seen Echo Cove Road, I'll say it's a hybrid of houses. As you drive down the street, you've got houses such as a ranch, a split entry, gambrel. There's a contemporary on the street. Moving down a little further, some pretty big colonials that are on the street as well. And as we drive down further, there's what I'll call out as a smaller cottage on Echo Cove Road, right across the street from a large colonial. So as you see, it's really a hybrid of houses on Echo Cove Road, a bungalow. And over here is interesting, where we have three houses on two lots. So you can see off in the distance, there's a custom colonial, but there's also a couple houses on one lot right here as well. Continuing down the road, we've got another contemporary and a colonial on our left-hand side and a nice expanded ranch on our right. And as we continue to drive further down the road on the right, we've got a ranch with a garage under. We've got a split entry home, which previously had three-car garage, but now has a two-car garage. There's a log cabin kind of directly across the street from my home. And there's a manufactured home. This home was built a short while ago, but it was brought in on trailers and set up on this home. And hence, this is why I'm calling Echo Cove Road a hybrid. Real nice custom colonial ranch, not quite sure what it is. Here's a ranch turned colonial. So a lot of people, obviously, when you have small properties on the lake, you want to make a bigger property and you tear it down, or maybe you add a second level on, which is what this house did. Moving further down, again, we have another situation, two homes on one lot. I'm highlighting off in the distance here this house that's on Gregory Island Road. As you can see, quite modern. We'll take a look at that house a little bit later. This house went up to the ZBA a couple years ago as well. As we drive further down the street, we've got this, very traditional colonial with what I'll call out as some contemporary flair. to this. Kind of interesting how the front deck is on these, angled posts here. We've got an A-frame, nice cape. Here we have a multifamily at the end of the street, an ADU. So that's kind of what makes up the houses on Echo Cove Road. And if you look at the line of sight on Echo Cove Road, as I'm driving down Echo Cove Road, you'll see on the left here where this red box is the approximate location of where my house will be. Kind of set back off the lot is my proposed house. Coming from the other direction, you'll see again where the house would be here. Actually, I cheated here. It's actually the front of the house will be at this tree because this tree needs to come down. So my proposed house is far off, kind of in the background. So here's the plot plan. We have moved the structure off the property line 15 and a half feet. I did have to move the structure back a little bit, back into the no disturb zone. You'll see the old structure is right here at the edge of the no disturb zone, and the new structure actually goes back a little bit further. I anticipate having to talk to Concom about this. I haven't had the Concom meeting with them as of yet. Now, what we needed to do to move this structure into the center of the lot is we needed to make a portion of the structure on slab. So there's certain setback requirements, and that's why we see all these very specific setback lines here. So this portion of the basement, which previously was a regular basement, is now a slab. This portion here, which was a frost wall, is now a slab as well. I'll call out that the front of the house from this corner to the lot line is 33.4 feet off the lot line. And when you add in the distance to the street, you'll see it's actually just about 40 feet off of the pavement or the proposed house. Now, the existing parking that we have is right now 3 or 4 cars, but with this new design, we will have parking for probably 7 or 8 cars when you include the car in the proposed garage. I don't have 7 or 8 cars, don't want 7 or 8 cars, but that's what we'll have plenty of parking for in the event that people come over for holidays and whatnot. People don't need to park on the street. Looking at this a little bit more, we'll look at the setback requirements. So here, our side setback, the existing structure is 13 and a half feet, and the proposed structure, both left and right setbacks would be 15.5 and 15.4. So this 13.5 is moving to 15.4. The front setback, as you know, is 25 feet minimum. The existing house is way back in the lot because it's a tiny little 1-bedroom. It's actually doesn't even have a bedroom. It's a single room house. But as you'll see, our front setback is well over the 25-foot minimum setback. And from a lot coverage perspective, I know the ZBA regs require 25% max, or that is the max lot coverage. The existing house is 5.9%, and the proposed structure is 20.3. Now, the prior structure that I presented at the variance meeting, I think it was 21 point something. So this one has a little bit more of a footprint. I'm sorry, a little bit less of a footprint. Now, I'd like to go back to 2 houses that I think are very good comps to my house. And that's this house here at 255 Echo Cove Road. I pulled the building plans for this house so that I could actually understand the height and all the dimensions of this house. But as you see, when you look at this colonial, because this is very, very, very similar to my house, it's just turned at 90 degrees. So as you look at this one, you can see there's 4 floors from the street. the garage floor, the first floor, the second floor, and you see the attic appears to be finished here because, we've got some skylights. The skylights open, the lights are on up here. So there's actually 4 floors that appear from the street. Comparing that to my proposed structure, which I'm sure you all have seen, it actually has 3 floors because our garage and our main floor are on the same level. When I look at this house at 255 Echo Cove Road, it's 9,600 square foot lot, so quite a bit smaller, 1,500 square feet smaller than my house. This house is kind of perched up on a hill, whereas my house is kind of on a decline. But when I look at the mean height, which is how the town measures building height, the mean height for this house is 30 feet 8 inches, whereas the proposed mean height for my house is 31 feet 8.5 inches. So a foot taller. Now, ground to peak for this structure is 36 feet 6 inches, whereas ground to peak of my structure will be 34 feet 3 inches. Again, these dimensions all come right from my plan. These dimensions are from the building plan of this house. So very similar house that was built in 1998. Moving on to that
Can
Gregory.
I,
Yes.
mind if I ask a quick question? Have
Yeah,
you been
sure.
inside that house?
I have not.
Okay.
Nope. Nope. Never have. So I don't know, what the basement is, the attic. I mean, I do have some photos of, the end of the house where you see the attic, and it certainly appears to be finished, the attic. But I have not been inside that house. Now here's that Gregory Island comp that I wanted to highlight, which I think is a very recent um, presentation to the ZBA. I think it was actually it was 2022. I wrote 2023. It was constructed, I think, final construction in 2023. Um, you'll see this house here, quite a different style house from the house next door, which is a ranch. And then you look a little further off here, there's a colonial. Oh, I'm sorry. Here's the old house that used to be here. And here's the view from the lake of this new house as well as the ranch that's right next to it. So I'm highlighting this because this is kind of what people do is, they take down an old house and they build a house that kind of meets their needs. They add second stories on, things like that. But let's take a look at the lot size and the dimensions of this house, because you look at this house, it's beautiful house, absolutely beautiful. Got solar on the roof. The lot size here got some differing information. I ended up using the lot size that was on the Patriot Properties dimension size, which is 11,500. Bruce, you were on the ZBA. I watched the ZBA meeting when the gentleman presented this house. Um, and the plot plan doesn't show the actual square footage of the lot. Some places I saw 9,500, but I ended up just using the size that was listed on Patriot Properties. So the mean height of this house, 28 feet, 3.5 inches, compared that to mine. Ground to peak, if you look at this ground to peak, it's 35 feet, which is a little taller than my house. Now, the mean height, for those people that might be wondering, is it's the average elevation from the average elevation of the front to and I'm sure the ZBA members can tell you a little bit about it more, to the mean the average height from I think the first floor from the top plate to the peak or something to that effect. But this is how the town measures building height. This house is 4,000 square feet. So it's a pretty big house because they have 3 living levels right here. 3 bedrooms, 3.5 baths versus my 4.5 baths. Same thing from floors from the street. I've got 3 floors looking at it from the street, whereas the other one had 4. And this one actually has an ADU in it, which is kind of interesting. And that's probably why the square footage is big, is because the folks had it built and then went to the ADU, went and got an ADU after it was built. So that really kind of concludes the PowerPoint presentation. I want to share again the lot, and I anticipate probably some changes to this around this general area. You'll see here is where the nonconformity is, and here is the right lot line where we're kicking it in 15.4 feet. And again, all the setbacks to the proposed dwelling. Any questions from the board? Would it be beneficial, Mr. Chair, to show the design of the house, or has the board had the opportunity to review the design of the house? Actually, I'll just kind of quickly show that. Give me one sec.
We can go through real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, why not? Let me find it. Where is it? Give me one sec. Oh, here it is. Duh. So we had to, you'll see what we did here is we were able to maintain the facade, the front entry from our last plan, whereas we've chosen, instead of a sloped roof here, we're doing a little bump out that is a flat roof, actually. The back of the house we've had to completely redesign. If you recall before, this room was shifted over and there were some windows right here. So by moving this over here, I'll say, kind of lost our view from my mother-in-law's bedroom. I'm sorry, from my mother-in-law's living room. And my wife and I lost our water view from our master bedroom. Our prior plan showed a slider right here, which kind of would have been nice to, look outside, lying in bed and, kind of see the water, but we've kind of lost that as well. Not a lot has changed on the outside. We made the garage shorter, 6 feet shorter from the prior plan. This is the flat roof section, which is, you'll see, it looks like it's stilts, so to speak, but environmentally, this is better to have this section of the house on these piers as opposed to trying to bring foundation this far out to the water. So light will get underneath this section of the house where light never got underneath that section of the house before. Another left side elevation. Here is where you'll see the whole slab that we're now adding, where we had to eliminate this this storage area here. So we're going to have to compact our utilities. I'm not quite sure whether we'll be able to get all the utilities into the space. As I said, we want to do geothermal, want to do solar, some kind of probably a battery backup type system as well. We might end up having to move some of those utilities out into the unfinished workshop area. The designer put in a bath in the basement. It's probably not going to get built at this point, but it's just there on the plan. And you'll see this room. This is the flat room, which used to be a sloped roof. We really like the design of the flat roofs that are kind of classic colonial designs. Moving down, I mean, I don't know how much you really care about the kitchen and our layout, but this is the 22 by 22 room, which used to end right here, but we had to push it all the way here. And moving things around, honestly, upstairs is my tiny little office here, and my wife's we call it library media room, which is her office. She's a full-time work from home therapist, so this is her space here. Previously I had a slider here. We got rid of that, and we ended up having to just suck it up. And again, the third floor, which is the attic, it's an attic. Don't get, it's not like, hey, a whole extra floor, it's an attic that just happens to be finished off for our 21-year-old daughter. So that is our plan. Questions? Obviously, the lot
Anybody?
was established in 1930s, well before zoning was ever put into place. I think that was what, 54 maybe. So yeah.
Well, we appreciate that you moved the structure out of the 20-foot wide right away. That takes a lot of the troubles out of this. It seems like all your setbacks have been met. There is one concern about the kayak shed. You
Yeah, I
still
said
have
I
that
could
up in the
lose that.
front.
Yeah,
Uh,
the plan, no, I we updated the plan on that. Let me pull that up. Uh
I
oh,
think I had the.
it's second pan. Right here, if we zoom in, uh to be removed.
Am I looking at the old plans? Hang on a second.
Oh, let's see if I can move this guy over for you. Oh, kayak shed.
Okay, yeah, I was looking at the other plan, sorry.
Yeah,
So I see proposed shed location, um, which is the one to be relocated.
right.
Yeah,
So
relocation.
we're
It's
pushing it a
5 feet
little
off
bit.
of that.
Yeah. Yeah, we're pushing it. It's 5 feet off the sideline, pushing it a little further back from the house. We know that that's a fire concern or something like that has to be off 20 feet off the house. So we pushed it off the house that distance
Yeah, as
or
long as
greater
you're,
than that distance.
yeah, you need to be 5 feet off that
Yeah,
side yard, so you're good there.
right. Yeah.
Um, And your septic, that all looks good. I mean, that's not my department
Yep.
necessarily, but I see
No,
that you're,
I talked to oh, I can't remember his name. The septic inspector Greg. Met with
Mhm.
him a couple weeks back about this configuration of the proposed reserve area. He was fine with that. The proposed shed location, he was fine with that. There's really no standards or code, so to speak, relative to putting structures on top of like a small structure like a shed. He recommended just keeping it off the pipes and, keep it back as you can.
Dan, do you know what you will have to go in front of the Conservation Commission for?
I don't know. Actually, that's why I have Williams and Sparages on contract. They'll be filling out whatever the form is that they have to fill out. They'll be recommending all the landscape mitigation that's necessary or, desired by Concom. I know nothing about Concom, so that's why I've hired them to do all that.
And I think it's something called a notice of intent.
NOI, yes, that's about as
anyway,
much as I
yeah.
know.
Has the health department looked at your room count
Yes.
and done all that? Have they
Yep.
seen the latest plan?
They have uh Greg, I think his name was I mean the rooms inside the house haven't changed. I have been in email communication relative to setbacks, and I know that this setback requirement here is 10 feet. We're at 13.5. This setback is 11 and a half, and the setback
Yeah,
requirement is 10. So basically it's 10 feet off a slab or 20 feet off of a foundation. So I have discussed that with Greg, and he said as long as I meet those setbacks, which I am meeting, there's no concern from his perspective. I mean, this is a 3-bedroom septic system, and he previously indicated that a 3-bedroom deed restriction would be needed, which it's fine. It's a very common thing, is putting deed restrictions on properties like this.
yeah. I just one problem I have with the plan that you're presenting is that you have a lot of rooms that are well over the size of a minimum bedroom on the upper floors.
Well,
And
if you'd
if I
like, I
just
can.
roughly count it, you're up to like 9 rooms. And when you hit to that level, you're supposed to divide it by 2 and round down, and that's your septic system size, which would
It
be 4 for 4. And I know he's saying just throw a deed restriction on there, but I
it's
see
it
a lot of
title
rooms that look like they could be bedrooms.
Yeah,
And
Title 5 defines a bedroom. There's a specific definition for a bedroom per Title 5. I can pull it up. I can find the email that he had previously sent me. But to qualify as a bedroom, you need a closet, you need a window, and you need 70 square feet or more. And Greg was very
Yep.
specific in saying that um, there should not be closets in my 2 offices. If you like, I can find the email that
no,
he
I have
sent
it.
me about it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's on the Hamilton website,
yeah.
in the Department of Health. Um, so I just wasn't sure if he had actually looked at it or
Yeah, I
not.
mean the rooms haven't changed since the first version. The only thing that we changed was the location of closets in the primary bedroom on the
Yeah, you flipped that.
yeah, we flipped them. That's the only change that's happened.
Okay.
You know, his biggest concern was the setback relative to the slab, which is kind of interesting. You know, I had initially discussed doing a crawl space, and he said, no, you can't have a crawl space because the concern is if there's any material effluent that gets out of the septic system and gets into a crawl space, you could, you know, absorb
Contaminate
it.
the whole house.
You know, and that's why it has to be a concrete slab.
Right. Okay, any members of the board have any other questions? If not, we can listen to the public out there. Sorry, my phone's starting to lose power now too.
Yeah, no, thank you, Bruce.
Yeah.
I'm good so far. Thank you.
Okay. Andy?
Really good presentation. It helped sum up a lot of things because I missed last week, or last month. So thank you.
Okay. Anybody from I don't know how to handle this with nobody raise their hands, but I guess you can through the Zoom thing, but I'm not real familiar with it.
Yeah, if someone would like to speak, you could just use the raise your hand function on the Zoom if you know how to do that, or if not, you can just say your name.
So,
Hi everyone, I'm happy to go first. I've got some kids here, so hopefully they keep it down. I just have a brief statement that I'll make. I just want to continue, particularly because you have a board member who wasn't here at the last meeting, to echo the sentiment
Can
that I
you,
was expressing.
could you just state your name and address?
Oh, I'm
before-
sorry.
yeah,
Kelly Faulkner. I'm at 175 Echo Cove Road.
Great.
Okay. So echoing just kind of what I had to say at the last meeting, I do appreciate that the board is generally committed to like stewardship and especially on a finite resource like Chabaco Lake and its commitment to preserving the character of the town. I would still comment that the scale of this new plan alters the character of the road. I believe the comparisons that were made to other homes in the area are pretty misaligned and rely on pretty fundamentally different contexts, which limit the validity of the conclusions that have been made. Particularly, I mean, as someone, I work in the information field, I'd further urge the board to verify the information that was presented if you're relying on it in your decision making. Thank you.
okay, thank you.
Hello, my name's Jerry Zullo. I live at 187 Echo Cove Road. I just wanted to state a case about the different elevations of the houses and where the houses are higher or lower. As Dan was pointing out, you go down a hill or up a hill. according to the property. I don't think it's a fair evaluation to compare that. That's how I feel. The other concern I have is that parking that is being evaluated. And I would ask respectively that the board come down and look at the street and how the street comes down on a curve. And if there's two cars coming by our property, we're right across the street from each other, one of you have to pull over to let the other one by. That's how small the amount of room you have. So I think that's a little concerning. And I just want to say, thank you for the board. And I hope that we can have the chance to have you, look at this situation as far as the size of the road. That's it. Thank you.
I'll just say I go down that road quite a bit. I have friends that live down in that area. So I know it's a tight road. But Dan has provided ample parking spaces off the road. I know a lot of the houses there, further down you go, it's a little tight parking and can be troublesome, but it's kind of, fortunately, it's the way that road is. But, it's not like he's just providing 2 spots, in which case you'd have a lot of cars trying to wedge in there.
Right. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So where do we suppose we put all these cars? If that's, what he's asking, I don't understand where. If I can have some, clarification, like how these cars are going to be able to be on his lot. Is he pushing the property back? And, where are these cars fitting?
I would like to interrupt, actually, sorry. There was recently a party directly across the street from us a couple weeks ago, and we had a hard time backing up due to the cars. So it's not just our home that, we are all trying to be considerate of the parking. So right across the street, we had a really hard time backing up.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
just hearing, it's just not, it has to work both ways.
Yeah, I mean, and I think I'm sharing my screen right here, and as you see, this parking here, the black and the white cars, those are my wife and I. There's actually parking for 4 cars here already, and this is what my wife was referring to when people have, the folks next door. Obviously, you're gonna have a party. Everybody has
Right.
parties, and you need to park your cars somewhere, and it is a public way parked on the side of the cars parked up and down the road. Obviously we have to deal with that every once in a while, and it is what it is. But in our new plan, we have more than enough parking in our plot plan for any type of situation. As you see here, there's 4 cars parked in this driveway right here. We're gonna have parking for 7 to 8 cars on our property because we already have parking for 4. This is 40 feet here. Throw another car in the garage and 2 or 3 more cars. I've got a boat on the property here as well, which is kind of taking up a parking spot. So it is, as Kristen said, it kind of goes both ways. It is I think it's a 30-foot road, and you got to be careful, and it just shouldn't be that I can't have a house because someone needs to park on the street.
Dan, in your PowerPoint, can you go back to in your earlier slides about what specifically you're requesting and why you're coming in front of the board?
We can pull up well, I'm requesting.
I know it's a special permit, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm and as I understand this process, I need to be here because this is this is kind of an undersized lot. It's less than 20,000 square feet, which is the R1A. So I'm not requesting any dimensional setback request here. I'm correcting the nonconformity. What I'm simply doing is I'm requesting permission, as I understand I need to raise my existing house and build a new house on an undersized lot while respecting all zoning regs.
Right. Can you go down to that your sheet, your table, please?
This one here, yeah.
Great.
You know, and this is like, I think the zoning, this is where I was conservative with the front setback. Hamilton has an averaging of setbacks requirement. So if and this is, I'm not quite sure how the averaging works, but I believe with averaging of setbacks, my minimum front setback is less than 25 feet. But I just chose to use the more conservative 25 feet minimum requirement here because I'm not claiming, claiming averaging of setbacks. You know, the house is
it's the
back
house
far.
on either side of you.
Yeah.
Control
Yeah.
where you can set your, your setback. Can't
Yeah. And this is
those.
and as you see here, there is you can just kind of get it right here. I can pull it up in the plot plan. There is like a garage right here that's 5 feet off the setback, off my side setback, and as you see, it's probably only 3 feet off the front setback. So I probably could maybe try to claim averaging of setbacks, but I don't need to anyway because we're 33 feet off the lot line and 40 feet off the pavement.
Mhm.
Are you able to park over your septic system?
I am not going to be parking over my septic system. The septic system is right here. That's pretty much all the green space that I'll have is my septic system, as well as the 15 feet on the left side of the lot. But there is not going to be any parking here at all.
So Bruce, is this special permit being, so sorry if I'm being dense here. The special permit is being in front of us because it is a non-conforming lot and he's changing it even though it will be more conforming?
Yeah, I'm not real sure, to tell you the truth. Special permits we don't really run into often.
It's because it's a
It's
non-conforming lot.
just
You can increase a non-conforming. You can increase the structure on a non-conforming lot by a certain amount, but once you go over that threshold, it requires a special permit.
He
Yeah, I
said
think it's doubling. I think you can double the size within the existing footprint without anything, like you could just apply to the building permit. But when you increase the size on the non-conforming lot being, 11,000 square feet, that's why it requires the special permit. You think about, I look back and think about this structure here, they had a special permit because their side setback, they were maintaining, I think it was like 13 and a half feet on their side setback. Now, I want to fix my nonconformity and want to move it to 15 feet. Now, I think that's probably better, right?
But you're within, in your chart, if we're going off that, you're within your lot size. You're in 25%.
Yes,
Yeah.
21% as I will pull it up right here. Or 20%, 20.3% is the proposed lot coverage. This plot plan was redone by Williams and Sparages. It is signed by a professional engineer and stamped by the professional engineer.
Yeah. It seems like, by the bylaws, it all works. What I don't know that we have, and maybe I need to look into it, is when you have that's for a typical 20,000 square foot lot. And we have almost half of that here.
You're wondering if the
You know,
percentage should continue on?
yeah, that's where I don't ever recall hearing anything about that or seeing anything about that, okay, now you're your lot's half the size, you can only, go so far with it because it's a smaller lot. And I guess that's why it's in front of us. I mean, obviously, it doesn't seem like there's any other things that we would have to rule on aside from just the
Is
size
that
of
why?
working with the size of the lot.
Yeah. Is that why it's in that? But that's probably why the town has, I would assume, percentages, right? Like
Hmm.
it's 20%, or as long as you're under 25%.
Yeah, you
Which,
can make a house as big as you want, really.
yeah.
So I know that's the thing. Um,
But I think a problem, which is why I'm wondering, like, okay, the residents in front of the ZBA because of a non-conforming lot, but really they don't like need to be. Am I not understanding that? Like they do need to be because it's a non-conforming lot,
right.
Because
but
But
he
otherwise, if
changed
there's a
it in
20,000
right.
square foot lot, they wouldn't have to be in front of us. They'd have to go
Right.
to get an NOI, and do all environmental stuff. But otherwise, um, it'd be a clear, clean, just building permit application.
And this is probably, I don't know. I mean, I just look at this as probably easier than that modern house because, the modern house is the modern house, the comp that I showed, they maintained the nonconformity on the side. They wanted a variance initially, and then they increased the side setback, and then they had to come back in a subsequent meeting and not increase it further. But they took down the existing house, if I recall correctly, that was 13 and a half
Yeah.
feet from the side setback. And then they built the new house 13 and a half feet from the side setback.
Yeah.
I want to build the new house 15 plus feet from the side setback, so trying to
Which
be
is, you're right.
right, to kind of
Yeah.
the right thing to do, right?
Well, it's allowed.
Yeah.
That's allowed. What he did had to be, come in front of the ZBA, and he wasn't increasing his nonconformity, and that's why we
Right.
allowed that to happen.
Right. So he was also, though, and I spoke to him today. He actually, he also had an 11,000 square foot lot. So he kind of exact same situation as mine, and he built, a 4,000 square foot home, and 1,000 square feet larger than mine. Because I don't know, maybe because he somehow, I don't know how he did it, but I think he did it actually with a bigger
I
footprint.
don't know if it's that
When
big.
you,
Yeah, right.
yeah, it's a much bigger footprint, but I'm limited by the pie shape of my lot to make it a narrow house, so to speak. I think his house was 34 by 38 or something like that.
I don't know. I haven't looked at that one, so I can't comment on it really. I remember it, but I don't remember it that well.
Yeah.
But I know it was built on his existing footprint, and this is a whole new structure.
Yeah, he
Doing
expanded the
it.
footprint. He definitely built it on the existing footprint, but expanded it forward.
Yeah, where he could. Yeah.
And that's why I said I've seen some things that were calling out it as 9,500 square feet, his lot, and then other things that say it's 11,500. So I just again use the conservative approach of the 11,500 for a more reasonable comparison or a more conservative comparison,
Yeah.
and not misleading.
Okay. Is there anybody else out in the public that wants to voice their comments?
Bruce, I do have a question. Thank you, Dan, for the presentation. Where it says to be removed deck with, am I reading that right?
It's it's a plastic tent. It's like what do they call those things? Just like one of those gray plastic tents, that is there.
Okay, and then what about above there by the kayak shed? Was that what you were talking about earlier?
Yeah, Bruce was referring to this earlier. Like I had proposed to move this to the front of the lot in the last meeting, but still 25 feet back. But Bruce had educated me about that, saying, hey, anything with a roof kind of is considered an accessory building, and you're only allowed to have one accessory building on a lot with a roof.
Yeah.
So that's why I said that this can be removed, which is what's kind of interesting about that too, is, in theory, you can't have a doghouse if you have a shed. You can't have a wood shed if you have a shed, but this kayak shed is 5 feet tall. There's no way a person's getting in here. It's kind of like a chicken coop
Yeah,
or
it's
a
just
big doghouse.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, I guess technically zoning regs don't allow people to have a doghouse because it's got a roof on it, like a wooden doghouse. Maybe you can have a plastic igloo. Who knows? But you know what? If it makes it easier, I'll take the kayak shed off the property.
I think slide them right under your great room. You have plenty of room there.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
wanted to.
exactly.
There's plenty of
Yeah,
options there.
yeah.
Don't worry about that.
Love to find somebody that wants I'd love to find somebody that wants a house. I contacted Habitat for Humanity, but got no response. Someone that would actually pick up the house and move it somewhere. But we evaluated this and we found that the existing structure, the footings go down 2 feet. After having redone our ceilings, and I can present pictures if necessary, there's cracks in the ceilings right now because the footings need to be replaced. And, it's better to just take it down and start anew. And that's why
Yeah.
this whole thing will be, you'll see this existing structure, existing dwelling. It's about a foot off the ground, maybe a foot and a half in places. Whereas the great room, that'll be up, whatever it is, 7 feet, so that we'll be able to walk out of the basement and, kind of walk out. And the deck will be obviously allowing sunlight and et cetera, through sunlight, water, etc., in this land that has never seen sunlight or water.
Well, you are
I just had a
quadrupling the size of coverage on your lot, so it's the water part's kind of a little different, but
Yeah, and that's why we have an NOI, and I'll have to deal with that with Concom.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, we looked at it last time. The only place that I'll say, build on this lot is in this little area right in here, like maybe a 25 by 25 house, and that's why I went the variance route, trying to move it away from the water. I mean, we got a 3-bedroom septic system, just like that modern house is a 3-bedroom septic system. They've got 11,500. I've got 11,000.
I just wanted to jump in here for a second. Kelly, you have a question, and I know you also put something in the chat.
Yeah, I was just curious, trying to go back to what someone said we were actually, like, what are we actually talking about here? I was wondering if this is the correct bylaw that you're referencing in terms of increasing the size of a structure in a non-conforming lot. I put the text of it in the chat just to double check.
Let's see.
2-family residential. Right, this is the one that I had mentioned where if we wanted to build on the existing footprint, we could, I'll say, go up on the existing footprint, double the size of the house on the existing footprint with a simple application of the building inspector.
Yeah, I believe that's the correct bylaw.
Yeah.
So it appears that, you know, if it makes it easier, I'll maintain the non-conforming side setback. You know, just like the you know, the modern house. But I'm trying to do the right thing here and move it in. And, you know, the intent of the zoning bylaw, in my opinion, is you shouldn't have your house within 15 feet of the lot line. I'd like to respect the neighbors next to me and fix the existing nonconformity.
And that's an interesting question. Bruce, if he doesn't change the non-conforming, do we have to be involved, ZBA?
I don't think so. If the building uh, inspector, there's a lot of little things in there. I think the building inspector could say, you know, as long as he's staying within what he has there now, he'd be okay to do that
I mean, that's,
without coming to us.
yeah.
Um,
It's because I'm increasing the square footage of the building greater than 100% of the building, which is why I'm here to you.
yeah.
Hmm.
You know, I mean, I'll go back to the modern house, you know, very recent. They went from, I don't know, 1,200 square feet, I think that was, to 4,000 square feet. You know, they had a special permit that was approved. The gentleman that presented to that board, to the zoning board of appeals, way back when, was the actual designer. And I think he was in front of you for about 10 minutes in the first meeting and about 8 minutes in the second meeting.
And what's the current square footage of the house and what are you going to change it to?
The current square footage is roughly 640. Depends upon whether you factor in the width of the walls and things like that. I don't know how people calculate square footage.
Well, for
But
us, it's outside walls,
okay. So so it's going to be about rounded up to 3,000 square feet. Um,
including decks and anything, any structure. Patios don't count, but we have to have any kind of built structure
Mhm.
gets counted. So I haven't, you know, I did the calculations on the last plan. I haven't done the calculations on this plan to see if it's, you know, the same square footage coverage wise.
Can I
Yeah,
get
I mean-
another clarity question on something real quick?
Yeah.
It's Kelly Faulkner again. When we say non-conforming, are you referring to the fact that is it non-conforming because of the size of the lot is smaller than 20,000 square feet, which is the uh by the requirement or whatever, or is it the existing setback?
In this case, it's both. It's a non-conforming lot because the minimum lot size is 20,000 square feet, and it's non-conforming because it encroaches into the existing house is non-conforming, so it encroaches a little bit into the setback.
Okay. Part two is maybe that there's after 5.3.3, there's a 5.3.4, which covers eligibility criteria, which may be helpful.
You know, Bruce, you were talking about square footage. Williamson's Barrages did the last plan, and
Yeah.
they did this plan as well. So to suggest that their calculations, you know, need validation, um, is I'm not sure if it's, I don't want to say appropriate, but I mean they're professional engineers that did this, not me, you know.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah.
So I mean, it kind of, I guess you validated the first one, and now you're kind of questioning the second one, you know. But
No, I'm not,
this,
no.
right?
Well, I was questioning the, you know, the footprint of your plan, not the lot itself. I mean, we were talking about different numbers before because of the consideration of half of the right of way. Um,
Yeah, I mean the half of the
You
right
know,
of
and
way,
that's,
yeah, the half of the right of the way wasn't factored into the calculation back then as well.
yeah.
So
Yeah, well, either way, none of them went over the 25% lot coverage.
right, right. I mean, I went down from 21%. I think it was 21 something, and I can pull up the last plan if necessary from 21% to 20%. You know, this one, as I said, probably 4 doors down. It's kind of similar. I mean, this is 26 by I think 38, and mine's 28 by 40, the main structure.
So there's eligible changes, the 5.3.4. It says the following circumstances shall not be deemed to increase the nonconforming nature of a nonconforming single or two-family dwelling structure, and the building commissioner may issue a building permit, and then the existing structure is this number 2, and the existing structure is nonconforming solely because it is located on a lot which is nonconforming as to the size and or lot frontage as the result of a zoning change, and the existing structure and proposed alteration, which you're talking about here, or extension meets all other current requirements of the bylaw, including but not limited to setbacks, height, and lot coverage.
Right.
And
And what's it say there, Bruce, in terms of what action is needed by the ZBA? If you tell me I don't need to be here, great. I don't need to be here. If I just file a building permit, great. You just got to tell me the process. You know,
yeah,
I am a little frustrated, because as I shared in the prior meeting, I was told what the process was. I invested $8,000 designing a house, and then learned 4 or 5 days before the planning board meeting that that wasn't the process. So, uh, help me out here, folks. I want
yeah.
I want
Well,
to put
I
a shovel in the
mean,
ground.
you were asking to build a house 5 yards off or 5 feet off your side yard setback, so that's what brought you to us. Now we're
Right.
back, and you've presented a new plan. So that new plan is making us have to reconsider. And I just got this new plan a couple days ago, and I really haven't been able to get to it. And I'm not
I'm sorry, it's making you reconsider. I mean, and this is where I've engaged Mark and have engaged Mark very frequently about this, where I got confirmation that we can still use this public hearing, moving from a variance to a special permit, but it just doesn't sound like, you know, the ZBA is sure of whether a special permit applies. You know, Mark, do you, as the planner in the town, can you answer any questions that may arise, may be here? Because, this is frustrating. It's just cost me $3,000 to prepare this new documentation to bring it to this meeting.
So
So
because
I don't, yeah,
you don't meet that 100%, Dan, and you're a non-conforming structure, the relief from that is a special permit.
okay. So that's good. So that's why we're here, is to to discuss that.
Yes. I'm just reading through this now. There's so I read to you number 2, and then the existing structures are residence in a district where residence is permitted. That's good. The structure is situated on a non-conforming lot or has non-conforming yards, which are setbacks. And the proposed alteration or extension is a reconstruction or repair which does not change the lot size or yards which fail to conform. For the purpose of this subsection only, the term reconstruction, quote, shall not include the voluntary demolition of such structure and its rebuilding. So, and then the next comment is, or the next item is, if the building commissioner determines the proposed change exceeds one or more of the criteria that we just went through, the 4 above, the zoning board of appeals may, by finding, allow such change where it determines that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood. So that's where we come in. Because you are voluntarily demolishing your house
Mm-hmm.
and reconstructing it. So that
Just
kicks us to the zoning board of appeals. So that's why we're here.
okay. That's good.
Yeah.
So we're in the right place then.
Yeah. It's sometimes this wording gets me confused, but
Convoluted.
so it is up to us to determine that the proposed modification will not be substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure on the neighborhood. Obviously, you're meeting all your setbacks, zoning wise. You're meeting your lot coverage zoning wise. Is this house proposed project substantially more detrimental than the existing non-conforming structure to the neighborhood?
Do we have a definition
No.
on detrimental?
That's our determination, I suppose. That's our weighing of inputs from the neighborhood, the town,
Yeah, the subject.
everybody who's involved. That's our job.
You know, I don't see how my lot or house is at all different from 156 Gregory Island Road. Really, I just don't see how it's different. You know, other than my lot is conforming from a side setback perspective. You know, and apparently by Patriot Properties, this says it's 500 square feet larger. You know, so, you know, but
Yeah.
this one has 4,000 square feet versus 3,000 square feet. So I don't understand how this is not, I don't understand how this could be, I'll say acceptable, but you know, why would, you know, what is, it's very subjective, I'll say, I think.
Yes, it is. It's you know, this is it's a sensitive area, obviously.
Right. And that's why we have NOI to deal with any sensitive issues.
Yeah.
You know, that's, I think, outside of the purview of the zoning board. I mean, you're here to evaluate, does it meet the zoning intent, right?
Right. Yeah. Is there anybody else in the public that wants to make any comments before we close that?
Hi,
Sure.
yes, I would like to make a statement.
Go
I
ahead.
think that what we were just discussing, I feel like it does it does take away from the neighborhood itself. You know, you have a property that's on the other side that has water views. And, you know, I think the proportion to the size of the lot and where the parking's going and the views, you know, take down the neighborhood. And I just don't think that it's, you know, right that we're putting this house on here that is on a lot that's not made for it. It's all of a sudden you're just sticking this house in the middle and replacing it with a house that's how much bigger? I mean, you got over, you know, 2,200 square feet you're adding onto a property. When you go,
Yes,
I mean,
I understand that.
so, I mean, that's just, you know, that's how I feel. And I just think it's going to be very congested right where it sits, right at the end of that street. And I keep on repeating myself. You know, I have 4 kids and, you know, and it's kind of scary as it is living on that hill and just putting more, you know, more stress on that corner is not a thing, but
Jerry, it was congested 2 weeks ago when you had your party that we couldn't back out.
excuse me, this is not a personal attack on you at all, okay? I
It's
am not
hard.
attacking you. Just take a look
Jerry,
at what you
please
just did.
don't.
No,
Jerry,
No,
please do not
don't.
raise your voice
Who
to
are
my
you
wife.
to tell me where my company can park and not park? And why
You're
are you
telling-
taking pictures? Why are you taking pictures of my property?
Okay.
You want to know why?
Mm.
You want to know why?
The zoning board has been in this position before where neighbors have had some disagreements on the proposed plan in front of us. And what we always like to go back to is what's written in the
Mhm.
zoning board bylaws so that
Yeah.
pretty, well, yes, there is room for interpretation. A lot of it comes back to being black and white. And this is a really tough situation because you have a lot of these older homes or homes that had a view, and then you have people moving in, and different generations are coming, and there's different styles of houses. And I do understand this hodgepodge, and I totally understand the idea of getting your drawings done and wanting to go forward and living in a house that had a fantastic view only for someone to come in and change that. So the zoning board understands both sides of this, and we're here to help move it forward. In my opinion, Bruce, in my opinion, it seems like this special permit, I know I wasn't there the first meeting, but I watched the video for the variance, which is very, very tough. So good that it was transitioned to a special permit because that is a little bit easier to go through. And my understanding of it, but Mark, Bruce, correct me, is that everything's been met. Like all
Yes.
the boxes have been checked for the zoning board to approve this, with the exception of your opinion on does the neighborhood change? Is that fair, Bruce and Mark and Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I've kind of feel the same way. I mean, it's a tough thing, but change is inevitable. And that was a little camp there, and I'm sure if anybody else had the property, they'd want to do something also. I think that the owner has moved the building off of, gotten the appropriate setbacks from the right of way. I'm going to suggest to the town that we write a letter to the neighbor to get their shed off of that right of way and to take down the fence. If it's their fence, to move it to put it on their property. They have every right to do that, but not in the right of way. And try to, make it a nice access for the neighbors so they can go down there freely and enjoy it and not be, right up against the house that was going to be 5 feet away from it.
But the house, Bruce, just as a side note, Bruce, the house is not going to be 5 feet away from the lot line.
No, not now.
The 20-foot way is completely out of the purview of this discussion.
Yes,
So
exactly.
I'm
But
I'm not
bringing
sure if
that
it's
up
the
for the neighborhood.
ZBA's right. But I mean, you're saying that I've already spoken with my neighbor, Rob, and I said to him, "Gee, some people are upset about this plastic shed. Has anyone ever asked you to remove it? Because he's got a plastic shed on the way. Yes. And
Yeah.
he said, no one's even mentioned it to me at all. And I said, would you be open to removing it? And he said, yes, he would be open to removing it. So, I am trying to make accommodations to help people because that's what I kind of negotiated with my neighbor Rob, to remove that plastic shed. I honestly think that the view from this ranch here will improve with my house because there's a large tree that blocks the view, partially blocks the view. That tree is going to be trimmed. We're going to lose some large sections of that tree, assuming the Conservation Commission approves that. So, but honestly, I think that the view from this brown house will get better, because of the removal of that tree,
Something was
and
I
the line of sight actually gets better as well because, as I look here, this tree right here that's leaning is coming out. That town is taking that tree out right there. So that does also improve the line of sight around this corner. Um, I didn't realize how my boat is impacting the line of sight. This is my boat right here, the white boat. Maybe I need to relocate that to help it, to help people. I still don't know how it impacts people's turn around this corner, but that tree is coming out, so this corner gets better, and that's something the town's doing.
Okay.
and
something.
I think I may have missed my chance to speak.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to raise two quick things. One is that we are talking about like a 300, minimally a 300% increase on the size of the structure that's there. So I don't know how that plays into it, but I know that it's seems subjective, this character or neighborhood question. But I mean, if you've driven down Echo Cove and you've driven down Gregory Island regularly enough, I think you would recognize that those two streets have very different characters. So that's sort of why I think that the comparison is irrelevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Gregory Island actually has a ton of houses that were torn down and big ones built on it, and Gregory Island Way's probably got some nicer houses on it, especially on the inner cove than Echo Cove Road does.
Something
And that's why I
just
called it a hybrid neighborhood.
So
I-
I think we're kind of coming to a
Yeah.
dead end on this discussion because we've worked through everything.
Bruce, could I add one thing?
Yes, please.
Something that the zoning board has done in the past is put conditions on decisions made. And as the last couple minutes have been spent on landscaping, I wonder, Bruce and Michael, if we believe that there are any, I'm not saying landscaping is one, but are there any conditions that we should be discussing?
The landscaping that would be kind of a tough one.
Yeah, nothing's changing here.
We
I mean,
really
but,
can't do much with
it's like-
that. That's a septic
Yeah.
system and then parking and
there's a large oak. There's a large oak in the way that presents a hazard, and I'm going to be talking with the Concom about the removal of that large oak. There's a large oak right here, which is coming out, which is right underneath the garage, and there's a maple right here that's coming out. So, the removal of these trees will obviously have to be mitigated in some capacity, and I'm sure that's what the Concom's job is.
yeah, they may require certain plantings on their own.
Yep. But I can't plant anything here. That has to stay open. That's
No, that does, yeah.
septic system.
You had a note on the slide below. If you go to it, please. Slide 18.
Yes.
You had a note here, request need
Yeah.
to go to Concom. So request a special permit approval allowing structure change, but stay within the setback. So I think Bruce, Michael, do we need to say if we believe we are voting tonight, do we need to say something around those?
Yeah, so we should condition it on, plans as drawn.
Mhm.
If there are any required changes that they would have to come back to us to.
Well, and that's
revisit.
yeah, and that's why I talked to Mark, and Mark actually recommended that the board give a condition that as long as the plans change within the side setbacks, I mean, it might change a foot here, a foot there, because Concom might want me to do something else. So, to avoid having to come back to zoning, because the Concom wants me to make the deck a little smaller or bump this section out a little more or that section a little less. I mean, I think the appropriate thing is, am I staying within my 15-foot side setbacks? I can't go any further closer to the street because I have a reserve area. That's a required setback, that 33 feet. So,
Right.
I would wonder about the height of it. If we're talking about, I don't know about Concom, but if you're talking about stilts, is there like a set height for stilts? Is that probably not? So I would wonder if you condition that too. Mike and
Well, that would be a conservation commission would require certain.
Yeah.
You can build certain ways when
Right.
you're getting close,
They
too
might-
close
they
for
might
their
make me-
comfort, but they can
They might
determine
make me,
that.
yeah, they might make me do helical piers, and maybe the helical pier needs to be moved here or there, or
Yeah,
maybe
right,
footings
right.
are okay, and that's the challenge here, the chicken and the egg, which do you go first? The first thing is getting permission simply to build a house that complies with all the zoning regs from a setback perspective, and on a undersized lot. That's why we're here.
Yeah, no, Andy, I think you bring up a good point. Anytime I see something like that conditioned upon, I'm interested to see what the changes are. And I'm not saying you would be back or you should be back in front of us, Dan, but I'm just saying if there were small changes as you're suggesting, then if you were back in front of us, I don't think that would be a long meeting at all.
Well,
That's
it would be an expensive meeting, Michael, because any setback changes will require me to redesign, will require me to get a new engineering plan designed, which would cost me about $3,000. So,
Well, what we can do is, I'm sorry to cut you off, but what we can do is have the building inspector compare the plans from this submission
let
to
him make the decision.
what,
Yeah.
yeah, and if he says, hey, you need to, you're pushing some envelopes here, then you'd have to come back to us, and he would
That's
do
fair.
that. And
You could also condition it on the footprint not increasing, which is I
Right.
think is doubtful, after going through Concom, but just as a kind of security.
Yeah.
So, right. So I
Andy,
guess you
Okay.
got to define what the footprint is then too. Is the footprint the foundation? Is the footprint the
It's
you
a
know,
footprint is any structure, no matter how it's built or supported, any structure above the ground. So,
And real quick, Andy, just because you were asking, where it specifically says he needs a special permit, I would say that's under section 5.5. It's the voluntary demolition. So
Yeah.
it says you can do a voluntary demolition of a non-conforming structure, but if the structure exceeds the volume of the existing building, and it's located in different footprint, a special permit shall be required from the zoning board of appeals. In the case of a voluntary demolition, the special permit shall be obtained prior to demolition. So that's why he's here. He's here
Yeah.
prior to demolishing the building.
And this is why we need Stephen, because he would have known that off the back of his hand.
Yeah. So I think we're at a position to motion for a vote. If anybody, do you think we're ready to vote on this? Entertain
I
here.
said I said a motion to vote on 186 Echo Cove Road. Second.
Michael, you ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So what we'll do is we're gonna vote on this with the condition that the footprint will not change any greater than what has been submitted on this plan, this plot plan dated June 3rd, 2025. And if it is required by the Conservation Commission to make some adjustments, if the building inspector determines that is not a detrimental change to the intent of this plan, the applicant won't have to come back to the board for review and approval. If it does push things into a different section, then he'll have to come back. So I'm ready to entertain a vote on this project.
Just to be clear, Bruce, are you saying the footprint can't change at all, or the footprint can't get any bigger?
Yes, it cannot get bigger. It can change if it needs to move a little bit, but that'll be up to the building inspector to say, if he has to move something somewhere to accommodate, but it's not it's not making any non-conformity, because there's no non-conformity of the structure as it's planned now. So as long as he doesn't create more of a non-conformity or increase the footprint of the plan proposed tonight.
Can I recommend,
should be okay.
Mr. Chair, can I recommend, I'm wondering whether you might consider making your motion based on the existing, the existing square footage as calculated for the 20.3%. So the engineers have calculated this 20.3%. Can I recommend making the motion to not exceed the 20.3%? Because it's possible Concom might want me to trim this back by a couple feet, or, does that give me the
That's
opportunity?
What I'm saying.
Right.
That's what it is. It's the footprint, the volume of
the
coverage.
volume of the footprint. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I got you.
Coverage.
I thought you meant the actual physical bounds, like, this is a cut corner. If I wanted to square that corner, what you're talking about is the proposed lot coverage. Gotcha. Okay, I was not understanding that. Thank you.
Yeah.
My entire fucking adult life.
Oh, what was that? Okay. Okay, I guess I'll make the motion to vote on this project as we've just discussed. I don't want to go through it again, but I think we all know what it is.
So, granting a special permit under section 5.5.13.
5.5.13.
Andy, second that motion.
Okay, do a roll call vote. Well, Michael, did you motion to vote, or what are you seconding? Because that was Mark that mentioned something.
I second the vote.
Okay, all right, there we go. Okay, do a roll call on the votes. Michael
Madden, aye.
Andy Phillips.
Andy Phillip, aye.
And Bruce Gingrich, aye. So I have 14 days to write up the decision and get it to the town. Get that done quickly. And then you can go ahead. Yeah, I mean, obviously you have a lot of steps to do still with the Conservation Commission to get through that. But so you are clear to go.
Thank you.
Okay.
Sounds
All
good.
right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair.
you.
Thank you.